Welcome back to Little Troyer Farm. That light is very bad, I'm sorry. But we are just wrapping up making homemade raspberry jam with raspberries that were picked here on our little farm. And we're just waiting for this pot of water to come to a boil so that those jars of jam can process. Look at all the raspberries!
I know!
So yummy.
Yeah, but...
First thing you're gonna do is take your jars and put them in some hot soapy water. I usually just store mine however. Some of them have lids on them, some of them don't. I always pitch these, I never reuse them. And then make sure you've got enough rings is the other thing. So this batch of raspberry jam says that it yields 8 cups, which would be 250 milliliters in a cup. This is a 500 milliliter jar, so 2 cups. This would be 1 cup. So I've got 2 big ones, so 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I like to wash an extra one just in case. If there's some little bit extras where maybe you don't can it, you just throw it in there and it does 1/3 of a jar or something, then you can just put it in the fridge. So I'm just going to let them sit for a bit. I'm going to give them a good scrub. And then we'll move on to the next step. The next thing that typically takes a while for it to get going is your big canning pot of water. So I don't have a pressure canner, I just water bath it. I would love to do more canning in the future. I do the basics. I've done peaches and pears and jams and jellies, that's pretty much it. But this is always what takes the most time, especially if your pressure is as terrible as mine. I may actually just fill this up in the bathtub because my kitchen tap is horrible. So the best tip that I ever got when it came to canning, I was so frustrated because my jars were they were coming out of the canner pot and they were just cloudy because we are on well water and so it's pretty hard with like the mineral deposits and everything. They told me that's really tasty. Add some vinegar to your pot just to keep it helps with the water. I don't know how much I add. I kind of eyeball it, I don't know. Also, if you're a mom and you have little kids and you're sterilizing soothers or you're sterilizing bottles and you're like, why is my bottle so cloudy? Add some vinegar when you're sterilizing it and it'll make it so that they're not cloudy. Great tip. The other thing you're going to figure out ahead of time is find out what kind of lids and rings you need. See, I got to add more rings. This is a regular mouth, regular, regular. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 regular, 1 wide mouth. So I want to get those lids counted out beforehand, and the rings. I've got to find some more rings yet. The other thing that you want to make sure that you do is inspect your jars. So what you're doing is you're looking for cracks, you're looking for chips along the rims. So you want to make sure that there is a perfect rim, otherwise you're not going to be creating a perfect seal. So make sure you inspect your jars. I just lay them out on a cookie tray like this with a towel. Then I pop them in the oven at 225 degrees Fahrenheit for 10 minutes to sterilize them. And then during that time, I begin prepping all of my jam. And then if they're in there for longer than 10 minutes, that's fine. I just grab them right out of the oven and fill them. So you have to be very careful because everything that you're handling is very hot. So these guys are going to go into the oven, then I'm going to start the oven. I think that that's important because if you set your oven to 225 and then put cold jars into a 225 degree oven, it's going to be really hard on your glass. So let the glass heat up with the oven. Other things I have, I've got a whisk, I've got my jar lifter, I've got my pectin, I've got a bowl for the lids that I'm going to use, and I'm just going to put boiling water over top of them to soften the rubber ring. And then I've got all of my rings prepped and ready there. Here's my clean pot that I'm going to use to actually do my jam in. Another fun tip, so if you just have a tiny little pot, you can boil them in a little bit of water. Just bring it to a boil and then shut it off. But a tip, instead of having them all smushed together like this, where the water's not going to be able to soften all the seals, just rotate them like this. Of course, I'm trying to do this one-handed. Like that. Then they don't stick together. The water can get at all of them and soften them up nice. So here we are at 8:30 at night. I am just now getting to my jam because, yeah, that's just how my day went today. So I had set everything up beforehand. I have my lids, my rings, my jars, my pot, my whisk, my jar lifter. I have somewhat open spaces to work with. My package of Certo, I need to get my sugar ready, make sure I have enough sugar. I set this to boil already. It's just water and a little bit of vinegar. And then my oven just beeped. It's set at 225 degrees. I had set the jars in there already. So as soon as that came to 225 degrees, then I started the 10 minutes for the sterilizing part. So now it's just mashing up some berries. So I'm working on my mashed berries. Right now I'm sitting at just over 2 cups of berries. So I'm going to keep adding. These are just washed and strained for the most part, strained. And I'm just going to keep adding and mashing until I have 5 cups. I had to, sorry, you can't see me. I had to double check with 2 different recipes because I couldn't remember if it was 5 cups of whole berries or 5 cups of mashed berries. Obviously, you're going to get a more accurate measuring with mashed berries. So the recipe, So the recipe does actually say 5 cups of crushed berries. So that is why I am mashing them. Okay, now comes the fun part. I have my sugar all measured out, all 7 cups of it. And I am going to, oh my goodness, that's heavy. Going to add my crushed berries. Put that in the pot. And then we're going to add our pectin. And then we're going to stir it up. And then we are going to bring it to a boil over high heat. So I don't know, I'm going to start with maybe a 7.5 because this is a turbo element and so it tends to get hot pretty quick. So the key is to stir it and not just let it sit. I've got my lids sitting in boiling water, so that's steaming away there. Those rubber seals are going to soften so that they create a perfect seal around those jars. This over here is just about ready to have sugar added to it. So when I stop, it's not like boiling right away. So it says bring to a boil over high heat. So that's at a boil. So I'm going to add all 7 cups of sugar all at once while I'm stirring at the same time. so that's that. Now this has to return to a boil. Add all sugar, stirring constantly. So this is where it's going to burn if you don't stir it constantly. Return mixture to a full rolling boil that cannot be stirred down. And then you want to boil it hard for 1 minute. I'm looking for my other oven mitt. It's not dusty. This will splatter and your arm is going to get tired. So if you have 2 oven mitts, put 2 oven mitts on. Otherwise, an oven mitt is going to be your friend. Wear an apron or something. You want to be mindful not to get splattered. Do not wear shorts when you're doing this would be the other thing. You don't want to end up with bad burns from making jam. So as you can see, it's quite obviously not boiling yet. So we're going to continue stirring. Make sure you're stirring all around your pot, all the surfaces, and just keep that mixed up so it's starting to steam. And we're going to start to see some foam. Pause for a minute, we're just starting to see a boil. Okay, so this has actually been sitting for just a little bit, a couple minutes. I had to make some more space on my phone to record. So what you're going to do now is you are going to skim all of this foam off. Just set it aside. My mom always used to joke that you had to skim the foam off because if there was any bugs still in your raspberries, that they'd all float to the top. And so that's why you skimmed the foam off. But really you don't want to have foamy jam because it just doesn't set all that nice. There's just really, like, you get a bunch of air bubbles that pop on the top and it's just not as pretty. I'm sure there's other reasons as well, but get rid of the whisk. It smells delicious. It says to skim for 5 minutes. I'm not sure exactly why there's a time limit on there, which is why I said probably at the beginning of this video, I'm not like a pro canner. I have canned some stuff, but I don't know all the ins and outs. I just do it. That was definitely a little bug. See guys, that's why we're skimming it off. It's okay. They're cooked bugs. I'm really upset right now because my children broke my tripod, so now I have nothing to set up with. so I apologize, but the angles are probably not going to be the best for this. Hopefully I'll be able to just show you what I'm doing. So I am getting a cup of hot water. This is for wiping the rims of the jars. I've got a funnel. I've got everything ready to go. So when you go to, I'll just try to do it this way, all right? I just use my towel on my hand, and I go in there, and I grab a jar, I set it down at my workstation, and now that jar is ready to be filled. Oh yes, that's the one other thing I forgot, is my little measuring cup. So let me show you how this is gonna go down. Hopefully you can see enough. There you go. Okay, so I'm gonna take this one, and I'm gonna put that guy in there. You want that about a 1/4 inch. That might be a little bit more than a 1/4 inch from the top, and then your thing of hot water. You can use a cloth as well. You're just gonna wipe the rim to make sure that's all free and clear. Then I always use a fork to grab my little lid. I grab my ring. Use your towel to grip the jar, and just hand tighten it. It doesn't have to be crazy tight. And then we're going to lift the jar and set it into one of the little slots for the canner. And we're going to put the lid on that. We're not going to start timing anything, and then we're going to get our next jar. Okay, it's quicker this time. Let's do a baby jar. We're going to set our funnel on there. Was hot. Check your seal. Grab your fork. I'm going to grab one of your warmed up lids. Always back spin it to find that rim. Hand tighten it. And you're going to take it, lift it, set it in the canner pot. Go to your next one. Okay, so I don't have enough for another full jar. I'm just gonna fill it to wherever it fills to, scrape out the jar, and then I just won't process this one. I'll let it cool and then I'll just tuck it in the fridge. So as you can see, it's pretty close, but not quite. So you can't can that, that's got too much what you call head space, so you just use it fresh. I'm just gonna leave it and let it sit open. Oops. So I'm gonna show you what's going on in here. Because I used some of these taller jars, I don't have enough water in there, so I'm going to add some more. When canner is filled, ensure jars are covered by at least 1 inch of water. So there we go. All the jars are covered. And when this water comes to a boil, that's when we start timing for the processing. Do you remember that extra jar that we put in here? There you go. We almost had enough for a full extra jar. You could also just use like a glass container. I've done that before. If you're just gonna throw it in the fridge, it doesn't have to be in a canning jar, but I would recommend putting it in glass, but it's my own opinion. There we go, there's our mess. Now we get to do some dishes. There you go. I would say that our water is boiling now, so we are going to set the timer. This is how I look, peering over the edge of my pot. You're welcome. I mean, it's fine. I don't need to look cute. One fun thing to note when you're processing, on this recipe it actually says it, but it says boiling water canner altitude adjustments. So all altitudes higher than 1,000 feet or 305 meters, you need to increase the processing time as indicated in this chart. And so right now we are 609 meters above, or altitude or whatever it is, above sea level I think is what it is. So I have to increase my processing time by 5 minutes. So it says process jams and jellies, boil filled jars, 10 minutes. So to 10 minutes, I'm adding 5 minutes to account for the altitude that we are at specifically. Crazy. I did just turn the temperature down so it's not on high double boiling, because as you can see, it's rocking and rolling. So I just turn it down. You don't want your water to stop boiling, so you want to find that happy medium where it's not like crazy boiling water, but you do want to maintain that temperature. So now we wait for 15 minutes. Okay, the buzzer just went off. This has been boiling fine, so I'm not worried there. I actually just forgot. This is my first batch of the year, and what you're actually supposed to do is when the timer goes off, you turn off the heat and you actually move it off the heat and let it sit for 5 minutes without the lid on it. 5 more minutes, and then we can take them out. Look at that! Look how clear that water is. There would be so much residue and stuff on the lids if I hadn't have put that vinegar in there. It's glorious. It is time to remove the jars. They say to make sure that you keep them level. Did you hear that pop already? My thing is that they've always got like a little bit of water on the top, so I just kind of like to dry it off, not pushing that seal. You don't want to push that seal. You want to let it seal naturally. Just kind of gently touch the top. Oh. These guys are popping fast. I'm just dripping water on this hot element. I've heard a bunch of them pop already. I think there's only one left that hasn't popped. By pop, I mean like you can hear the seal clicking, like the air bubble on the top goes. It's called music to a canner's ears because you're like, I know my jars are sealing, yay! So there they are, nice and pretty. We have 8 cups of jam. And this is what the cooled stuff looks like. So I know that that set up really, really well. I was a little bit concerned because when I was putting it in jars, it looked like it was really, really runny. But I think that it's going to turn out just fine. So pretty. Okay, last thing that we're going to do is cover it. And these are going to sit here for 24 hours. And you are not going to disturb them. You're just going to leave them. You don't want to transport them. You want to just leave them, let them cool, let them do their thing, let them seal properly. And then in 24 hours, then we can put them in storage.
What, did you never do this as a kid?
He's eating the stuff where I told
It's
you
like-
where all the bugs float to the top, and that's what you're eating.
Protein. It's like raspberry marshmallow.
Raspberry marshmallow. I can't. I'm disgusted right now. I was gonna be nice and give him a nice spoonful of like warm and freshly set up raspberry jam. Oh no, do not try to. He's got longer arms. They've got jam all over your teeth. Delicious, right? That's better?
This is actually bad.
That's it. He just gets the scrapings. He doesn't actually get the...
Hey, you can't
The
diss
good
it
stuff.
unless you try it.
I'm not. No. I know where that's been. I literally
In the
scooped
pot with the jam.
like a dead bug off the top.
Like you never had a fly going on before.
No, and I definitely don't eat the raspberries fresh out of the garden either. Well, I guess it doesn't have to go to waste. You can put it on your toast tomorrow.
I'm serious. If you've never tried it, you gotta try it. You can't diss it.
No.
You
No.
can't
I'll
diss
stick
it
with
and
the...
walk away.
I gotta go feed the animals.
I know you do, but you
Don't
gotta try the
force
fluff
me. I'm the cook.
fruit. Yes, and the cook must therefore test.
No,
Yes.
no, I must not. So it is, what is it now? 9:58 p.m. It looks bright out here because we've got a massive yard light right there. a shop light so we can see intruders, but there you go. It's pretty dark. I gotta feed critters yet, so yay for that. But hey, the jam had to be done. So I'll have to feed the hungry mouths out here. What? You think I'm starving you? You guys got fed like 4 hours ago. You're fine, I'm sure of it. But I'll feed you some more anyways.